Alright guys, let's talk about it. You've probably seen a couple videos explaining the benefits, the negatives of DIY plant lighting. Alright, and what I mean by that is, maybe you're gonna go to Menards or Home Depot and you're gonna get like a shop light or, some easy, cheap DIY-ish lighting for your aquarium. If you're buying a light for your planted aquarium, should you go DIY? Should you go the shop light route? Should you do a planted tank with a cheap light? Let's talk about it. This question gets asked a lot because when you're building a planted tank, one of the most expensive parts of a planted tank, depending on how you look at it, can really be the light, all right? Lights such as this right here can be about $50 or so. I have a Phoenix 24/7 Stingray over there that I got for free because I just got really lucky. And then, most of my lights are Hygger lights, or this light right over here is actually just a lamp, with a regular LED light bulb in there. You can use cheaper, inexpensive, LED lights from like Menards, the shop lights, or from like Home Depot, stuff like that. But it does come with some drawbacks, and those are the parts that we really need to talk about. Not all the drawbacks are really direct as plant growth and stuff like that. Some of the drawbacks are more of a visual aspect. The color spectrum that you can see, you get more of a bluish, reddish, and you can actually control the different levels of that through your settings on your light when you have a full spectrum planted light. But you get a different spectrum of light, and it's the spectrum of light that I'm more of a fan of. But then if you look at a light such as this, that's just an LED A bulb, which is just like the kind of light bulb you'd use in your house, in any of your regular lamps. If I'm going to use an LED light bulb in my aquarium, it'll be a 5000K daylight bulb. And you can go, I think, higher than that, but I think right around 5K is where you want to be if you're going to be trying to save money on a planted light. But so when you use that though, you get kind of this different spectrum, and you do need a powerful light if you're going to go the cheaper route. So just depends on the color that you're looking for. Me personally, I've noticed that when I use the cheaper LEDs in my aquariums, it tends to make my fish kind of wash out and they don't look as good. I've noticed that when I run these planted lights, if you have a planted tank with some good looking fish in there and then a full spectrum light, the colors on your fish just pop so much more. So there's more than just the growth that you're getting out of your plants when you're looking at, the positive and negatives of a light. All right, so when I had put together my first fish rack build, I had used some homemade lighting. All right, it was just kind of put together with some BR30 bulbs, which are some really bright, really spotlighty bulbs, and a very yellowish tinge because I was running the daylight coloration. All right, and I just never was a big fan. I got decent growth, and I also realized that I got a lot of hair algae. All right, so I probably could have toned down those LED light bulbs that I was using and gotten a better growth and more controllable algae growth. But since running planted lights, I just don't have problems like that. I'll get some hair algae growth in here every now and then, and I just kind of pick it out, but I just don't have the same problems that I had with doing DIY lighting. When you're doing the research for your aquarium, you're gonna run into a lot of people that say like, hey, you could do the DIY lighting, and you totally can. I have some DIY lighting everywhere in my aquarium. But the problem is they're gonna tell you that that's gonna save you money. And it's one of those things, cry once, buy once, cry once, I think is the term, or the saying, you're better off just putting the initial investment into some good lighting for your plants, because there's a reason it exists. I mean, if you didn't need a good planted light, they would just never exist. It's just a straight up fact. If people were able to prove day in and day out that you could grow all these plants with DIY LED lighting, they just wouldn't have a market for planted lights. Now, obviously, some people are gonna be like, well, there's people that just like really expensive stuff and they just want that kind of thing. Yes, but I'm telling you, with planted lights, there's just a different level of growth you're gonna experience with your plants, and the coloration alone is gonna change. The fish coloration you get out of it, the coloration out of your plants is gonna be amazing. And it's due to the spectrum and the technology and all the thought that they've put into these lights. Now, do you need to buy an expensive planted tank light? Not really, depending on what you're doing. It really depends how far in you want to go into this. I run pretty low tech setups. I'm actually running a decent amount of air. Usually I run pretty low air to kind of let the CO2 in my system build up a little bit to let the plants feed off that and really feed everybody exactly what they need. So I don't add extra stuff. So I don't add, you know, an insane amount of light because I'm not running CO2. And when you run CO2, you're going to need more light because you're going to need the whole system to be running faster, which would grow more plants. But I'm not willing to deal with all of that. It's not an investment I'm willing to put into my setup. So what I do is I run the medium grade light. The medium grade light because I'm running a medium grade setup. I'm running, you know, decent substrate. I'm running no CO2. I'm doing, you know, my normal water changes and all of that kind of stuff, but I'm not running a high-tech setup. So my light shouldn't be a high-tech light because it just doesn't make sense. One other thing that affects this though is the depth of your tank. These are 10-gallon tanks, which means they are about, oh, I wish I had a tape measure with me. I think it's a foot deep. I believe it's like 12 inches deep. So with substrate, you know, we're looking at about, you know, 10 inches down, you know, from the top surface, and then you'll have a cover on there. Your light needs to penetrate through all of that. And if you have a deeper tank, I would say that the average hobbyist, if they're looking for a bigger tank, and if they've done the research online, they're probably gonna end up with a 40-gallon tank. It gives you the biggest variety of things, or a 20 long. 20 long is what I would suggest, but if you have a 40-gallon tank, you have a deeper tank that you need to get that light down through, which means you're gonna need a more powerful light. So personally, I find the benefit of running smaller tanks is you can kind of save money on a less expensive light. Now, I do think that this would run a 40-gallon tank completely fine, especially if it was, you know, closer onto the top. Maybe I have a clearer top. Maybe I would get like a glass top that would cut out less light. The panels that I use here tend to disperse and block a little bit of light. So if I were to take that off, more light gets through. All right, but you know, you need tops in your aquariums, and every now and then I just clean those off and it kind of lets more light through that way too. So do I think that you can get away with LED home shop lighting, whatever you want to call it? Yes, all right, I do think you can. It just depends on the plants that you're going to be running and your setup at home. So the higher tech tank you have, the higher tech light you need, and also depends on some of the plants. Some of the plants you're going to see are going to be like really hard to take care of, but they're the prettiest. So when you see them online, you're going to be super jealous of people, and you're going to try to get a hold of those plants yourself. And if you don't have a good high-tech light at home, that plant's going to melt. And that's why I said I don't necessarily think that DIY plant lighting saves you money. I think that a good plant light right off the bat is the way to save you the best money, because it's going to get you the best outcome when it comes to growing the plants. Especially when you buy these plants online, they come in not the healthiest conditions, or they come in and they've just been shipped, you know, or they have to acclimate to your water. Get them everything they need. Get a decent plant light. Decent, not the most expensive. It doesn't need to be some $400 plant light or $200 plant light. You can spend $50 on a plant light that's going to grow an insane amount of plants. And then if you have a little bit of the entrepreneurial spirit, you can sell some of your plant clippings and then maybe even make some of that money back. So I gotta know, guys, what do you guys think? Do you guys think you can do the DIY LED lights and keep all your plants alive, or do you think you need a super high-tech plant light, or somewhere in the middle, just like what I have? Let me know in the comments, guys. I'm really interested in what you guys think. I also think that the collective of experiences gives us a better idea versus just looking at one opinion. So whenever you guys are watching videos out there, make sure you're getting a bunch of opinions. One opinion is never gonna be the way to go. Watch a bunch of different YouTubers and also watch differing opinions. Watch opinions that are opposite from yours and the people that are around you to make sure you can expand your understanding of the way different people view the hobby, especially if you're looking to expand your own. Thank you guys for coming by and watching, and have a good one.